everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them and I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that I have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. I really love the logo. I think Orzakowski did it, and it is absolutely awesome. So we are starting our coverage of Excalibur. I have already covered the the special edition that was a prequel to this. And so we're looking at Excalibur #1 from 1988 by Chris Claremont and Alan Davis, as we are about to start adding Excalibur to our X-Men rotation. And soon, Wolverine will be in this rotation as well. So, I have to tell you, I have a nice copy of this book that I recently bought maybe a year or so ago, but I still have my original that is tethered and not even with the cover attached. It is just I really read this thing when I was a kid, and this is I had no idea who Alan Davis was. I had my first thing what that I ever read of him was X-Men 213, the Wolverine versus Sabretooth story, and then the 215, the first one with the old soldiers, and then the X-Men Annual 10, I believe. And then the Excalibur. Now I've gone back since and discovered he was in Detective Comics and Batman versus the Outsiders, but this stuff is really how I came to fall in love with Alan Davis's art. Paul Neary will be his inker. It was his longtime friend, by the way. Rest in peace, Paul Neary. So we have Excalibur here, and then we have the Warwolves. So here we go. We are in Scotland, and I don't think Stonehenge is right next to this factory, but okay. And Warwolves of London. Chris Claremont, writer, Alan Davis, penciler, Paul Neary, inker, Thomas Zakowski, adding yet another big book. I hope he was paid by the word, because boy does he put a lot of them in here. So we have Anna Senti and Terry Kavanagh as the editors, and Tom DeFalco is the chief. And basically it is the same team that is in X-Men. And then, the logo was designed by Ken Lopez, not Orzakowski. I was wrong. Look at that. It corrected me in here. So, nice. All right, so we see this creature here holding something. It looks like he's tearing something apart, perhaps. You see this fire here. And a very well done splash page. And it's Tweedledope here. And he's sitting on this thing, adding food and junk to this thing here, and he tastes it and just slurp. And here we have the radio saying about a hostage situation, and Captain Britain is in there, and as well as Excalibur. He takes this whole radio and shoves it in here as well, and shakes it up like if it was a martini, and it's still doing nothing. You can even see he's like, what? And we see the crazy gang in here. This is a foreshadowing. So the Tweedledope tosses this contraption in here, and as he walks away, it opens his eyes. So here we go. So now we see the 4 werewolves going through London, and they are looking down here, and we see Captain Britain with this detective here, or whatever they're called in England. And he's like turning to a pair of teenagers when I have trained officers at hand. And Captain Britain says to him, Shadowcat and Phoenix are no more ordinary teens, Commander Thomas, than I am an ordinary man. And he says, is that meant to be reassuring? And he says, trust me, this is the best. And he says, well, you better be right, or we're both going to hang for this here. And so this cop here is talking with Shadowcat and Phoenix. And he's like, I can't believe that they're allowing you two to do this. And he's like, Phoenix is like, Shadowcat, we have our cue. Captain Britain says it's time to move. And of course, the cop is like, hey, wait. And his arm, of course, goes through her because she is in uh, see through, I get. No, not see through. She's intangible. And so she says, see, Sarge, no need to worry. In a way, we are as professional as you guys. And in our time, my partner and I here have helped save the world at least twice. So a gang of street thugs, is really no great big deal. Thanks for worrying, though. So you can see she makes Phoenix intangible as well. And so he's like, wow. But one of the Warwolves attacks him and takes his life force away, leaving just his skin. So unfortunately, he kills the guy. So he's going to be wearing the skin. Kind of gross, but kind of cool at the same time. And so she sneaks in and sees these hostages here. And then Rachel hears that psychic attack that when the police officer died, and of course this terrorist hears it, and so she goes down, and Phoenix is like, "Huh, I'm gonna have to think of something." So he calls in there, and they take her, and they're like, "You can play later." So they're already not planning good things here, and so she puts on this robe looking thing and pretends she's a ghost. So of course she's intangible, and everybody gets scared. And of course, she makes a move and she's shot, but she continues because of course she's intangible. But outside, Captain Britain and the commander here are going to go in, and Rachel is going to get him, and this guy all of a sudden, of course, she makes him intangible, and he's like, I've become a ghost. And she says, unless you surrender your weapons and renounce your evil ways. And of course they all do. And she guess, I guess criminals are a cowardly, superstitious lot. And Phoenix recovers, and she says, with Excalibur, warning is all you get. And of course she thinks here show off, and of course she's psychic, so she hears it and says, Luke, who's talking? So Captain Britain makes his way through, but the crisis is averted here, and she's like, hey, nothing we couldn't handle. So this guy here he'll be kind of a minor character throughout this whole series here. Nigel Frobisher, so he's a banker. He's like, I wanted to express my gratitude privately. And she's like, please go away. And of course, he's like, your lips say that, my darling. And Cap Britain shows up. So do mine. Go away. And of course, as he's leaving here, Potsy stuck-up arrogant sod. Who's he think he's throwing his weight around? And so Captain Britain asked Phoenix if she's all right. And she was like, explaining that it was as though she was dying. And she says, it wasn't me, it was someone else, their last terrible despair psychic scream. And no matter how hard I scan, I can't even find a residual trace of that person's thought. It's as though the mind I touched never existed. Now, these are tattoos from her days on Days of Futures Past. but she uses her powers to make people not see them, but the tattoos are always there. And so now we have this guy here, and of course the Sarge shows up here, and now we've got another werewolf. Remember, there were four of them, so this is number two, and the same thing is going to happen. And of course, this Phoenix feels it again, and she's like, "It's happened again." She tells her, and now comes a third person. Of course, these two are waiting for her, so we're gonna have a third person now. Kitty's looking at these pictures of the X-Men that were taken during the oh my goodness, Fall of the Mutants. We have Dazzler here with that knife. I have covered. I have a playlist for the X-Men. Feel free to check that out. I have an X Universe playlist where I put everything. So I got X-Men, New Mutants, Wolverine, any minis. Excalibur will be there. X Factor. Check that out. I have an X Factor playlist. Feel free to check those out here. And so she thinks of Psylocke, who also died during Fall of the Mutants, during the New Mutants portion of it. And I have covered that. I have a New Mutants playlist. Check it out if you are so inclined. Poor Doug. And so her and Doug were like besties in a way, and her heart is just broken. And so she regrets that, she thinks the X-Men are dead, and her bestie's dead. And so she's thinking here of all the things that the X-Men have had to deal with. But for some reason, Lilandra's here, and she's not a bad guy. She's the only non-bad guy in this thing. So here we have Ogun from her time during the Kitty Pryde Wolverine Limited series, and the Wolverine Kitty Pryde Limited series, which I have covered both. We have the Brood, Mojo. I think this is Belasco, and of course we have the Hellfire Club. Although this guy is dead, so and so is the Rook here. So anyway, so she's just reminiscing, and Captain Britain comes through, bring her some crackers and some tea, and says here, "You've been spending a lot of time down here in my old workshop. Rachel and I were getting worried." And she says, "Sorry, I sort of get macro obsessive when I'm working on a project." And of course, she's an electronic wizard here, and he says that he was too when he was in school. And she asks if the X-Men, if she misses him, and of course she says she always will. Anyway, she's going to town, and Rachel's seeing a play, and she says, "Hey, why don't you join us?" And she says a rain check. She wants to finish what she's doing here, and so he's going to leave. So there's a thing here. He says, "Thank heaven there's no more than the 3 of those strange seizures in the past few days." So a few days have passed here. She'd be better, though, if she could determine what the cause was. And she says, "I think I can do something about that." So she's going to be working on a project. And so we are going to the what's going to be the headquarters of Excalibur, which is at this lighthouse here that Captain Britain lives with Megan. Now Megan is a fairy, for lack of better word, like those magical creatures, and she's empathic, so she tends to feel or become like the version that people think. So this is how she looks like for Captain Britain. But we'll actually see what she really looks like here. And of course, she's got like Spock ears, pointed ears, And so she's giving her a tour of the lighthouse, and that is, of course, their big bed that she shares with Captain Britain. And so Nightcrawler says, "Man, there's a ton of room here for all of us." And he's walking through, and he's like, "Hey, where does this door go?" She says, "A storage cellars." And he goes in, and suddenly there is like this whole other world, and they're all like speaking in a different language, and he's like, "No need to provide translation, my friends. I get the message. I know when I'm not wanted." And so they're coming after him, so he teleports, which is part of his power, and he lands in the kitchen and asks Megan to go look. And of course, she kind of looks at him like, "You silly dog." And so there was nothing there. So now we're gonna go to Captain Britain, and Rachel is here, and this is the same guy from the previous couple nights, Nigel. And I like how she will tell him something, but then thinks the word pig. So, who's the looker? Nothing to do with you, pig. Just my type. That'll be the day, pig. Care to introduce you? Like some people, Nigel, pig. I have work to do. So, he's gonna go and break his own ice, he says, and he's like, she thinks here, I do hope, pig, you fall in. So she is psychically talking to Nightcrawler and Megan, and Nigel is talking to her, and they are let's see, um, Megan is saying that nothing like what Nightcrawler is describing has happened while they have lived there. I love the color holds there. And they go, maybe we'll get some ideas. But this guy's continuing to talk here. And then they eventually say, hey, we'll be in London. We'll see you later. And so all of a sudden, she now has his attention. And she's like, this man, his hands, his thoughts. And he goes, I beg your pardon. And suddenly you can see the phoenix behind her, and he falls down. And she says, I strongly suggest, Mr. Frobisher, the next time you're with a lady, be a gentleman. Of course, Brian saw this, and he's very happy with her. Although he does think that she should dress a little bit more conservative. And here comes Courtney, and she will be a character that will also be going on through it. They give kisses in the cheek. They are longtime friends here, and he goes, "Hey, when'd you color your hair blonde?" And she goes, "It's always been blonde. It's just that when we were younger, she dyed at Auburn just because she thought it was politically declasse, too flashy." And so she says he needs her bank, and she goes, "Well, that's what we're here for." And so now we are back in the apartments here in London, and Kitty has created this little contraption. And so now she's going to dress herself as Phoenix. And she decides she's going to be the bait and see if this will work here. It's going to replicate all the signals from Phoenix here. So she thinks it'll hopefully fool the Warwolves. And here comes Megan and Nightcrawler, and he's like, man, it's cold. And so he's taking a bath to warm up, and Megan comes in with some hot chocolate, and he's like, please, a gentleman prefers some privacy in his bath. And she says, on Dynasty, Joan Collins never seems to mind being interrupted in her bubble bath. And Nightcrawler grabs the hot chocolate with his tail, and he thinks here, unlike you, she doesn't have a very big, very powerful, very hot-tempered boyfriend. And so, glub, 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 glub. And so, Rachel is walking through here. She thinks the idea of finding the werewolves is a bust. And so she's kind of walking through town, and she'll wonder if her plan will work. Now, it doesn't really say at all how she knew it was the werewolves. I had gone back and looked, and I'm like, at no time. She just says, "Hey, find the werewolves." So I will. It seems like she had just figured it out here, and I love how Megan watches television. She's just very childlike here, and so um, she goes, man. She loves the fantasy that and another that TV provides here, and he's walking through and realizes that there are two phoenixes, and so he figures out that Kitty is one of them. And of course, here's this play that she was going for, and Nightcrawler yells through his thoughts. He's like, "No need to yell, Kurt." And so we're always in rapport. You just say my name and I'll hear it. And she goes, "I'll explain as I go. Get Captain Britain too. Megan and I are already in our way." And so she's like, I'll be right there." And so here's the same couple from before kissing, and Phoenix shows up and says, "That outfit, my face, what the blazes?" And she says, "It's a long story. When I get home, I'll just explain it to you." And as she is coming through, she sees the cop, which is, of course, the same guy that she thought she was met. But as they approach her, they are. Oh, wait. The werewolves, I think, were from the previous. Yeah, I think from the Captain Britain. Sorry, the Excalibur one shot. Yeah, sorry, I forgot about that one. That was a That's been a couple weeks since I covered that one. And so here come the werewolves getting out of their skin, and they hit Kitty, and of course Phoenix shows up and takes them out, and we're gonna have finally a little bit of action in this, but of course Claremont is going to stick a bunch of words in there. So, all right, and so they said that their touch or their hit scrambled their powers. I like this one here. Like, oh, um, I like Alan Davis. I truly do here. So, all right, and she's in. Let's see here. Some stuff here that's kind of slippery. And so they put their skins and hang them up like coats here. And this guy grabs Rachel. So she's the one that they want. And so Nightcrawler shows up, but he hits them. And they're like, we have to stop them. They have Kitty. And we get to the last page here. And they're like, hey, they're kidnapping. And so, of course, they're like, they thought she was me. She thought her phasing powers would protect her, only something went wrong, and I didn't know. Now she's their prisoners. And Nightcrawler says, only until we rescue her. And Rachel finishes, unless they turn her into a werewolf first. So next, a werewolf possessed. So before we end, though, there is a back cover. And Alan Davis did these throughout at least the first 12 issues. And Phoenix is the first one that he will do here. So very cool. Nice. So Excalibur #1 by Chris Claremont and Alan Davis with Paul Neary. Like and subscribe, and I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.